What would happen if we put an entire continent full of cursed people up against a tiny island full of blessed people? Today we're going to find out. First, we split the map in half so they can't run into each other too early. Then we make a giant island on the right side and a much smaller island on the left. The small one gets the enchanted biome, while the big one gets the arcane desert biome. After that, we drop humans on the right side and throw the curse on them so they all get the cursed trait. On the smaller island, we place the same number of humans, but this time we give them the blessed trait. In case you're wondering what each trait actually does, the cursed trait gives minus 100 loyalty, minus 50% damage, minus 50% health, minus 20% speed, minus 90% diplomacy, 10 years less lifespan, and minus 200% offspring. On the other hand, the blessed trait gives 5 extra years of lifespan, 50% more damage, health, and speed, 20% more diplomacy, and 10% more crit multiplier. With that out of the way, we hit play and let them get to work. Right away, I'm surprised by how insanely fast the blessed ones are. Meanwhile, the cursed are way more normal, and honestly kinda lazy. They just stand around chatting instead of working. While the cursed haven't even managed to light their campfire, the blessed are already mining silver, which, by the way, there seems to be a ton of in that area. They don't waste a single second. Even while they're gathering food, they're already starting to have kids. In no time, they throw up their first cabin. What caught my attention is that it didn't start as a tent like it usually does. Meanwhile, the cursed spend months putting all their effort into finally lighting their campfire. And over on the Blessed Island, they've already got 2 more houses and have started building roads. It looks like the lack of trees on the small island is going to be a real problem though, since they can't upgrade their cabins as fast as they'd like. We'll see how they manage to deal with that little setback over the next few centuries. By the way, it looks like the queen is pregnant, although this isn't her first time, because she's already had a total of 5 kids, and the father is the second in command of the kingdom, Waynadin, who somehow has 6 kids of his own. Yeah, that's a little suspicious. Honestly, I have no idea what the cursed are doing. They still haven't built any houses and just keep wandering around. Now that I think about it, maybe they don't have enough wood, but too bad for them. If they want to build, they'll have to go get the resources, because there are plenty of trees up north on the island they could use. Not even 10 years have passed since we started the experiment, and the Blessed have already built their first mill and started growing their own food. The kingdom looks really prosperous, but there's still a lot left to develop. Over on the cursed side, we finally hit a historic moment. They managed to build their first tent, and they actually seem motivated, because right after that, they build another one. From here, we let time roll so both groups can settle down as proper civilizations until we reach year 27. It really hasn't been that long since our last visit, but the progress on the Blessed Island totally deserves a closer look. They've expanded their mill a lot, and honestly, I keep wondering how hard it can be to just mine that chunk of ore already. It's stressing me out just seeing it sitting there. They've started mining thanks to the construction of their first mine, where they mainly extract silver, the most abundant material on the island. That's really good for them, because silver can be used to make very solid weapons and armor. The town center looks way more organized now, with roads laid out in a really clean pattern. Although, funnily enough, the queen decided to move her palace to the outskirts. That's causing a second little town to start forming in that area. On top of that, they built a port and developed warships and fishing boats. I imagine they've also got trade ships, but since the island is so small, I doubt they're going to get much use out of those. Things on the cursed side are not as bad as they looked at first. For some reason, they build much thicker roads. At first glance, it looks super chaotic, but if you look closely, there's a sort of honeycomb pattern to how the houses are laid out. I don't know how efficient that layout really is, but honestly, they've got way more land than the Blessed, so I don't think that's going to be the deciding factor here. At this point, I decided to customize each kingdom a bit, giving them a color and a fitting name so we can tell them apart more easily. The Blessed keep surprising me. In just a couple of years, they've managed to cover almost all their buildings in concrete, including the Queen's Palace, which now even has some gold decorations added on top. Meanwhile, the poor cursed are still stuck with wooden cabins. After a few more months, they finally managed to build their first mine, and with that they get stone so they can start reinforcing the foundations of their homes. Even their dock is still made of wood. It feels like everything goes wrong for them, and they can't even farm peacefully. The land really doesn't look very fertile. Still, they're finally getting their act together and building secondary villages. Although I just witnessed a murder, the killer was Darrow. Normally I wouldn't care too much, but I can't just ignore it after seeing it happen right in front of me. So I build a small cell and put a few zombies inside. Then I start giving Darrow a bunch of positive traits like zombie immunity, high resistance, and a ton of health. The whole idea is to make him last as long as possible against the zombies. Otherwise, it wouldn't be much of a punishment. Once I'm done, I drag our murderer into his cell, and immediately the zombies jump him and don't even give him a chance to fight back. He's going to stay there for a good while, so in the meantime, we'll fast forward time. Now we do a real-time jump, all the way to year 300. Everything seems to suggest that the tension on the cursed side couldn't hold any longer, and finally blew up into a civil war. It's the perfect excuse to take a look at their military situation. I see a lot of bows, but what worries me most is that since they're cursed, whenever they die, they turn into evil skeletons that group up and start tearing through the entire kingdom. Even though the cursed unite to fight back against the threat, the south is completely overrun by skeletons, and not even their best soldiers are able to stop them. The cursed population is on the verge of total extinction, so I have to step in. I decide to use the magnet tool to drag all the skeletons into the ocean, and once they're in the water, I just wipe them out easily. While I'm in the area, I check on Darrow, and sure enough, he couldn't handle it and has been taken out by the zombies. Back in the cursed kingdom, there are no more wars. The people seem to have understood that there are much bigger threats out there, and that they need to stick together if they want to survive. They'll have to rebuild the kingdom again, but on the bright side, they've got some solid buildings now, like barracks, libraries, and a lot of determination to move forward. On the blessed side, things couldn't be more different. It looks like they haven't even noticed anything that just happened. They live in peace and harmony like always. I'd actually say that for the first time, they've fallen behind the cursed in terms of technological development. I don't see barracks, libraries, or anything really new. They're pretty much the same as they were 270 years ago. The only thing they've managed to do is push their population up to their limit of about 200 units. We'll see over the next few centuries how far the cursed can push their numbers once they fully recover. Time skips ahead to the year 1231. The blessed population is basically the same, while the cursed have comfortably passed 1,000 inhabitants, although with very few soldiers, to be honest. Even so, the blessed haven't just sat around doing nothing. They've made cultural progress and finally caught up a bit, building things like a training barracks and a marketplace for citizens to trade with each other. The palace is dripping with luxury, and their warehouse is overflowing with riches. The cursed, on the other hand, have recovered surprisingly well. The south is still a bit underpopulated, but the capital is packed, and the northern region of the island is also heavily populated, even though they outnumber the blessed. The blessed have a huge edge. They discovered gunpowder and started producing tons of shotguns, not to mention the silver armor they're wearing. The cursed are running around with stone axes, bronze hammers, and not much more than that. To kick off the final showdown, we're going to knock down the wall between them, and to give them a land route to attack, we'll build a bridge connecting the two islands. The second I hit play, I realized the main problem the blessed had was just a lack of space. As soon as they have somewhere to expand, they immediately start building libraries and spreading across the bridge. It doesn't take long before they launch an attack on the cursed. The cursed are caught completely off guard and take forever to react, letting the blessed destroy a bunch of houses. Although, to be fair, even if they had reacted faster, there's really not much they could have done to stop them. Soon the capital falls into the hands of the blessed, but the war is far from over because two towns break off and keep fighting on their own. These guys seem a bit more capable and even manage to take back the land they'd lost, but the blessed army returns, and after a brutal massacre of soldiers and civilians, they conquer the northern territory as well. Only the south is left, but it's a tiny town. Honestly, I'd say there are more rats than people in that city. Either way, the blessed head down there too, and in the blink of an eye, they take it. I was genuinely surprised by how this duel ended. I really thought the cursed would put up a much bigger fight, especially considering they literally had 3 or 4 times the population of the blessed.